All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 30th meeting of the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. First item this morning is to approve the minutes from the let me back up. My name is Tony Emerson. I represent District 4. I have the honor of chairing the committee this year. If my fellow members could please introduce themselves.
Michelle Hofer, District 9.
Neil Dobler, District 7.
All right. The first item this morning will be to approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting. I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Can we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 3-0. There is one item. At this point, I would like to change the agenda a little bit in that Mr. Faulkner, a couple times here, we've ran out of time for his item, so I don't want that to happen again. So at this time, I'd like to move item 6 to the next item, and Mr. Faulkner, it's all yours.
Thank you, Councilman. As you know, I came to the committee before with the floodplain ordinance. I got some input on how the ordinance was looking. I took that input and I redid the ordinance, and I've resubmitted it for your review and additional comments if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Any questions from the committee?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Faulkner, I really appreciate the work you did on this. I know one of the things that me and you talked about a little bit ahead of the time here was you took out the 10-year horizon for the cumulative repairs.
Yes.
So now, as I understand it, under this revision, now people can do remodeling and stuff as long as at any one time it's not more than 50%.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not cumulative.
Okay.
All the changes that are made, either they're neutral or least restrictive. So they want to enhance, I guess is a good term for the floodplain development in the floodplain.
And by adopting these, I believe people are going to see a 10% reduction in their flood insurance.
Yes,
right?
actually, we have enough points for 10% right now, but we're only getting 5% because we haven't adopted or amended our floodplain ordinance.
Okay.
So once we amend our floodplain ordinance, that 5% goes to 10%, but they won't see that reflected in their insurance premium till March of next year because we missed the deadline for the submittal, but
Okay.
it will go into effect.
And this is not anything, the city does not need to hire any additional staff for this, correct?
No.
So, okay.
However, there are we can get up to 45% discount on insurance premiums, but that's going to take a lot of work and it's going to take some time. So if the city were interested in doing that, that would be beneficial. But no, we don't have to hire any additional staff. It just would take us time to get up to the 45%.
Okay. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor? If not, I would entertain a motion on this item.
So moved.
Okay, motion from Deputy Mayor to recommend forwarding this to the council.
Second.
Okay, and a second by Councilwoman Hofer. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes 3-0.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner.
No, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, now we resume with the change of the CIP, the 2023, the Topeka Boulevard Phase 2. Mr. Copley?
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about this project. Just as a recap, at the last Public Infrastructure Committee meeting, we presented a project on 17th Street that had a $30 million budget, and the committee, I'll say, there was a little sticker shock in terms of the cost of that. And we were directed to go back and take a hard look and to see if there was any value engineering. So we did take a look at that. There were certain items that could be pulled out, for example, the 10-foot wide shared use trail, and we could apply for a KDOT grant at some later date to be able to get that. Improvements at the intersection at Oakley, we could also remove that and again apply for at a later date KDOT grant. but those were not material. I mean, it barely put a dent in the $30 million price tag of that project. So one of the things that we looked at was, what if we just completely changed the scope instead of doing full depth reconstruction along that entire corridor? What if we went with a mill and overlay? Well, when I started to really dive into and roll up my sleeves in terms of the PCI and mill and overlay, it really didn't make sense. That street was milled and overlaid approximately 5 years ago. I would expect a life of at least 10 years out of a mill and overlay. The PCI index that we had from driving that 17th Street in 2022 is a PCI on average of 75 through there. And so it really didn't make sense to go in and do just a mill and overlay when so much needs to be done. So then I started looking at the CIP and took a hard look at Topeka Boulevard, 15th to 21st. Well, Topeka Boulevard, 15th to 21st, has a PCI in the 20s and 30s. It's also part of the gateway of our city. It's another countywide half-cent sales tax project. So the more I started mulling this over, it looked to me like instead of doing a mill and overlay on 17th Street with great PCI, another 5 years left on that, why not change the focus, come back to you guys and say, you know, I think that pushing 17th Street out and prioritizing Topeka 15th to 21st is really in our best interest. And then we looked at the old budget estimate that we had on Topeka 15th to 21st, which was put together again 2015, 2016 for the purpose of the interlocal agreement. We've had substantial increases due to inflation during that, so we took a look at the cost, and adjusting for inflation, we're looking at $9.2 million, and this is to do a complete reconstruction of that road. Again, we're not talking about going over the top. We're not talking about adding a bunch of complete street elements. We're really talking about leaving the geometry the same, doing a full depth reconstruction of road that sorely needs it. PCIs in the 20s, where we will have street crossings, drive approaches. Obviously, we need to make sure that we're ADA compliant, but there's no push to add new street lights. There's no push to add additional complete street items. We've got approximately 5 foot wide sidewalks on both sides. We may have an opportunity to widen one section over by the expo. So that's what we're looking at. So with my request would be for this committee to approve us moving forward to the governing body to get permission to move forward on Topeka Boulevard 15th to 21st. We would go immediately once we have approval, get started on design, looking at probably a year for design, including survey. So in 2024, we would push into any permanent or temporary right-of-way that we would need, and then get it out to bid and construction in 25 and 26. It's a short section of road. It's only 0.7 miles, but given the fact that we have so many businesses on there and that it is major arterial, it's going to take 2 years to do it, because we're going to have to do the absolute best we can, maintain access to all businesses, and we're going to have to try to maintain one lane north and southbound of traffic. This will actually fit well with what we have in design right now, which is 21st to 29th for construction in 24. So it'll allow us to really move the needle in terms of the boulevard by the time we get both of these projects done, from 15th down to 29th. So with that, I'll gladly stand for any questions that you would have.
Thank you, Mr. Copley. Any questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a great pivot. I drove 17th after our discussion last time, and frankly, it was just kind of scratching my head as why that's even a project at this point. I also know Topeka Boulevard very well, and that just the idea of shifting funds from something that may not make a lot of sense at this point to something that does make a lot of sense. I'm really thrilled to hear that, Mr. Copley. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in. I basically have those same thoughts. This is great. I was coming down this morning and going down Topeka Boulevard, and I just, oh my gosh, that's horrible through there. And that's, as we all know, that's where the most people, especially people that come to town, they're coming from south of town, they're going to be coming through down Topeka Boulevard, as well as all the people going to the Expo Center. So, no, I think this is, like the deputy mayor said, I think this is a fantastic pivot, and this makes a lot of sense in my mind. Councilwoman Hofer, anything?
I've got a question. So we had 14,650 set aside for 17th. So that money's transferred, the 9.2 is transferred to here. What happens to the rest of the money? Is that going to a different project?
No, ma'am. Actually, we're not going to touch the 17th Street money.
It's going to sit.
Topeka 15th to 21st is identified as JADO, countywide half-cent sales tax. It is in the interlocal agreement. It was just lower priority than 17th Street. We're simply taking Topeka 15th to 21st, leapfrogging it over 17th Street. Clearly, it was the 5-year-old, 7-year-old budget estimate of $4.7 million is not adequate. This project needs to be paid for out of JADO countywide half-cent sales tax, but the project cost is going to come in the $9.2 million range and not what was originally estimated 7 years ago. So
Okay.
we will 17th Street push it down the road because this one is a higher priority. We'll circle back to that. Maybe we'll see in the next year or two some decreases in costs that will allow us to bring that back, put it in front of you for your consideration.
Okay, so this is money that is in the budget. We don't have to come up with anything more on it.
Correct.
Okay. I think it's a good use of our assets to be able to improve something that really needs improving. So
Completely agree.
I move to go with this project.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend this to the full council. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 3-0. The next item, I believe, Mr. Copley, you as well, the amendment to the 2023 CIP/CIB for Northeast Curtis. All yours.
Yes. So Taylor is going to be pulling up a map. The genesis for this project basically stems from a couple of different conversations that the grain elevator on the west side of the Kansas Avenue Bridge between Quincy and Kansas, there's a very large grain elevator. The owners of that initially reached out to Director Fyander and myself about 6 months ago, and then more recently, they reached out to the city manager. They have plans to increase the amount of spur, which is basically railroad car storage adjacent to this facility, so that they can increase the amount that they're shipping out of this facility. So basically build longer trains. They estimate that the increase that they will see will be approximately 3,000 of the large semi-truck grain trucks per year going to this facility. Most of those trucks come off of 24 Highway. They go south down either Topeka or Kansas. They get onto the fly-off, and then from the fly-off, they go on Curtis fly-off west. Then they pick up Curtis that goes east to get to the elevator. The legs between Kansas and Quincy, as well as on Curtis, as well as the legs of Kansas and Quincy, are public right-of-way. They are our street. They have a single-digit PCI. They currently are beyond their useful life, much less adding another 3,000 semi-truck grain trucks per year. Curtis fly-off is pushing, 15 years. PCI is starting to diminish there. Same thing on Curtis. We figure if the council will support this, we'll go in and do a mill and overlay and then On the fly-off, I don't expect that will need any more than a mill and overlay. On Curtis, we have taken cores. We don't have the results yet to see what our subgrade looks like. We have predicated this budget on full depth reconstruction of portions of that. Hopefully it will come in. We won't need to do that. Hopefully the brick underlaying that is still sound, and we'll be able to get by with just a mill and overlay and save on the project costs. But because I don't really relish the thought of coming back to you in a couple of months and asking for more money because the subgrade is inferior, we went ahead and built this budget on the full depth reconstruction of Curtis. And with that, I'll gladly stand for any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Copley?
I will apologize. I misstated the names of the streets. It's Quincy and Monroe are the two little short legs of north and southbound.
Sure.
Right there, immediately adjacent to the elevator.
Okay, questions? Any questions from the committee?
No questions.
Okay, I got a couple, well, probably one. Because of the condition of the road, there is not much for design on those two legs.
No, ma'am.
So they're just, and what are they gonna be? Asphalt, concrete? I'm talking about the two legs going into the elevator.
I want to alt bid those, right? Because I want to see what the difference is. If I'm going to be able to get a substantial savings from asphalt, then I go with asphalt. If I'm going to be able, if it's not much more to go with concrete, knowing that I'm carrying this heavy truck traffic and have a 30-year road versus a 20-year road, I want to be able to make that cost benefit analysis. So we'll go ahead and alt bid those.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say with that kind of truck traffic, my preference would be concrete. So if it's reasonable, that's the way I'd definitely go.
Completely agree.
And this is scheduled for when for construction? Next year?
I would like to do design this year
Sure.
to try to fast track it and construction next year, because this is going to be a detour route. Once the Topeka Boulevard Bridge is closed for PQV, all of Kansas sand and gravel is going to be driving along this as well as other from North Topeka to be able to jump on and off of the Kansas Avenue Bridge.
That's
So I
part of my question.
really needs to be done in 2024, which is why we're in front of you today asking for this to be an amendment to the existing 2023 and not just letting this kick the can down the road and doing it as part of the 2024 CIP that may not be adopted until June.
Is it possible that it will move any faster?
To be realistically, no.
Okay,
I mean, we still have to have it designed. We have to have plans. We have to be able to put it out on the street.
okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. Oh,
Mr. City Manager, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in this truck traffic just so everybody can kind of help plan and look ahead. We're really talking about the harvest for 2024, and they're moving a lot of corn. And so we're really talking probably October of 24 to see the major uptick in this truck traffic. So that gives us a short window here to get this done, but not too much time.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Hofer,
I'll second.
second by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, none opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Copley. And the next item is a request for a firm project for the firing range. Mr. Tryon, I think that's your,
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start.
Oh,
We've got
okay.
Jason here to be able to answer the additional questions. So we had pulled this item from the agenda 2 months ago to be able to put some better numbers together, and we do have cost estimates from Samco relative to replacing 2 of the heating and cooling units out at the police firing range to the tune of 16,400. I think that we had a WAG placeholder in there about 40,000 before, and rightly were challenged on that. Then in addition, we have, again, we have a itemized estimate from Samco to do a water extension. Currently, that facility water is provided by a non-potable well. And so this would be there's a rural water district that has a water main adjacent to the facility. This would be to the 28,930 would be to bore a service line, make the connection from the facility, tap the main, add a water meter to be able to provide potable water service to that particular facility. And with that, Jason will be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Copley. Yeah, Mr. Trine, I did have just one question. This does include the cost of the meter for the rural water department?
Yes, that was included in the quote.
Okay, okay. Great. I don't really have any questions on this. I think that's great you're getting water service out there. I visited this location a couple months ago after we initially talked about it, and yeah, that was pretty gross. The water it's only for flushing toilets and stuff, but yet it seems pretty gross. So I'm all for this. And I guess a little history in that area, this water line was only put in about 4 or 5 years ago. I know that because my mom lives at the end of this street, and we used to have to haul water to her. So it wasn't that in the past that people at the city didn't care. It was just didn't have the option before about 5 years ago. So
Without an expensive main extension.
right. But that's done now, so let's hook on to it. Yeah. Any questions from the committee? If not,
No questions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Deputy Mayor to recommend approval to the full council. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Hofer. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, none opposed. Passes 3-0. And I think that's it, unless,
Nothing else from Public Works.
okay, anything from the other members of the committee?
Nothing.
All right. Well, in that case, do we have a date for the next meeting?
I was going to ask that.
It's not on here, but tell you what, just stay tuned to your emails and stuff. We'll get a date out. So,
Were you going to aim for the last week of April?
sure.
That's about what we've been doing the last week of the
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, I will ask Liz to get with us and everyone else and just see if the third or fourth week works best. So seeing no other items in front of us, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.